that construction all relates, of course, to employment, and something that we've spent more and more time in our analytical approach to planning in our office is thinking about the balance of residents and employees and who it is actually in Arlington at any given time. And certain county board members have expressed desire to see more of a balance on the street, sort of a 24-hour, I think, is a planning kind of holy grail, sort of an 18-hour livable community. And as we've thought about it a little bit more, it's a relatively complex relationship between employees, and there are employees, retail employees and office employees, and there are hotel employees and there are hotel residents. Hotel residents or hotel guests certainly would be a major factor in a place like Crystal City. So in the planning process that's going on in Crystal City, one of the goals is to get that 18-hour activity, but a large component of that is hotel guests. So this is really just a diagram to just illustrate how, in terms of communications, obviously during the day, the residents aren't around, but there are all of these other sort of constituencies that are using county services. More specifically, and these numbers are from economic development, just looking at where the people are working. Virginia Hospital Center is a leader in the past couple of years in terms of private employment. These are the top private employers, and a lot of the consulting firms, BAE, CACI, et cetera. Overall, and these numbers are from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, and so I don't have the numbers specifically, but Arlington County is obviously a major employer, and so between the schools and the county, we're probably the top employer, except for the Department of Defense.
Is that going to shift significantly with the PRAT?
Well, yes and no. I mean, the Pentagon's not going anywhere, so that's yeah, it's about 16,000 employees right there. And it'll be interesting to see if that number declines. But those numbers are increasingly hard to get. So actually, I have a slide a little bit later on that. So you're ahead of the gun. Again, this is an even bigger chart looking at employment change by industry group, and something that's a distinguishing characteristic of the region, and certainly Arlington, is services and professional and technical services. So in the past 7 years, this is data, again, from the Bureau of Labor Statistics via the Virginia Employment Commission from 2000 to 2007, any gain has really been largely in these professional services, including accommodation and food services, but also financial insurance, education, and scientific and technical services. You may notice the number down here in total, the number of total employees is about 160,000. That's the number from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. That's a little bit lower than we in planning think it is, but Bureau of Labor Statistics is probably the best single source for employment data, but it does exclude a couple of things, namely some international groups, self-employed people, and some nonprofit organizations. So that number is probably a little bit lower than the actual employment in the county, but that is a number that I know economic development uses because it's the best single source for employment information. So here we are with a little information about PRAT, but just sort of key employment considerations. Distinguishing characteristic, again, of Arlington is its low unemployment rate. That really relates to the residents a little bit more than those who come and work here, but that number is creeping up. It's been under 2% for some time, and now it's just a little bit over 2%, but it's certainly below the state, which is about 4%, and the country, which is just over 5%. Vacancy rates I'll talk about in a second, and then this is just a few numbers from BRAC. Here I've got a displacement of about 1,300 jobs. I guess that number varies. That number varies depending on what you're considering, but about 3.5 million, or just over 3 million square feet of office space will be vacated. And it is kind of a moving target. The end date, the requirement of the law is that buildings be vacated or office space be vacated by the 15th of September in 2011. So that is a hard and fast date. So there will probably be some extensions of leases, and it's difficult to say when exactly the employees will be leaving. This is looking at vacancy rates in submarkets in the county. Again, this is from economic development, and in most station areas, the vacancy has gone up a little bit. This is in the past couple of years. This is for the fourth quarter. So the bars here represent fourth quarter 07, the third quarter 07, and then fourth quarter 06 for comparison. And this can be a little bit misleading because in places like Boston, we talked about earlier, have a lot of new office square footage coming online, so the vacancy rate is tied to that. But overall, Arlington's vacancy rate is just under 10%, and that is just a little bit below Northern Virginia, which is about 11%. And then looking into the future, I don't know if anybody read the Washington Post piece about looking into in the future. So this is one of the graphics from that article. And I chose this one just because it's, I guess, this is something that would be in Roslyn or somewhere, looking towards the district, although the buildings are wildly out of scale. Robert talked about the forecasts, and so I just have a couple of quick slides on the forecasts. Our current forecast for population is about the highest we've had. If you compare these rounds, or something we do every couple of years, dating back into the 80s. So we're just around 240,000 in 2030 is our current projection. And this is a map that shows where that growth will be, largely in the metro corridors and along Columbia Pike. You can see these darker circles there on Columbia Pike. But there is, again, some infill, and that's sort of what this stuff is up here. These are just sort of single-family houses that are getting built. Major Costco site is a future source of employment, and this actually doesn't include the Crystal City plan currently, so that will add additional growth.
Does it include the development around East Falls Church? The metro, around the metro?
Yep, yeah, it's here. Yeah, in comparison to some of these other gains, which are pretty big, it doesn't seem that significant, but yes. And the employment forecasts are below what we projected in the past, and that is really a reflection of the strong housing market in the past, and so that may change in the future. But again, looking at where that development is, Shirlington, where we are currently, and again, this is sort of Pentagon City, and then it's really constrained to the metro corridors, essentially a little bit in East Falls Church, Columbia Pike. Our information is online, just briefly, on the webpage. Easy to get to. Click on About Arlington. That takes you to our profile summary. And then just on the right, you can see links to other data.